The St. Louis Cardinals had a very, very disappointing year in 2023. However, 2024 will be, hopefully for them, a bit of a turnaround season. But getting back into playoff contention, I would think, would be the goal for them. And they still have a ton of talent on their team. It was a 71-91 record last season. I think Cardinals fans would love it if they could flip that around and go 91-71. I think that's I think that's ideal for them. And the hope is for the Cardinals and for Cardinals fans is that they get back to the top of the NL Central while they have Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado around before they start aging and declining. So without any further wait, let's dive straight into the St. Louis Cardinals team profile. My name is Derek. I'm here with Pat. You're watching Bleacher Brawls, and this is the St. Louis Cardinals team profile. So first things first, let's start off with the key players. Obviously, I did name Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, who are, two very important players. Pat, do you want to name three players? You can include them, include other people, and then one of those guys that you want to talk about and why you think they'll be impactful for the Cardinals in 2024.
Yeah, this is a team that's last year sort of shockingly bad those are my three guys with Goldschmidt, Arenado, and I'm going to go Wilson Contreras. I mean, this is a team that should be very good. I wrote last year on BleacherBrawls.com, I wrote a piece called What MLB's Losing Teams Learned, and it's about what teams that finished below 500 took away this year. And I said for the Cardinals, well, this is what rock bottom feels like. I mean, it's not going to get any worse than this. I am of the opinion that it's their manager, Ollie Marmol, who's still around this year. I think I'll be proven right later this year. But they've got some legitimate superstars on this team. These are guys that should be. They are. They are all stars. They are MVPs. They are silver sluggers. They all are Gold Glovers. And it's sort of it's disappointing that these guys are playing on a team that looks like this when in the recent past they were a very good team.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a team that, it's interesting, right? You obviously have the Goldschmidt and Arenado, which is, massive. But for me, I want to touch on some other guys here. I do want to touch on Ryan Helsley because I think he's, fun closer. Sonny Gray obviously was a big move for them, but I want to talk about Jordan Walker, and there are a few reasons to. For that first thing, for Jordan Walker, he was originally a third baseman, right? He ended up having to move positions due to Nolan Arenado, and I think that's not necessarily helped him. I think he's got the physical tools, she's Louise, of being able to play the outfield, but it was rough for him, right? And considering the fact that overall last season, negative 16 defensive runs saved, negative 14 outs above average. However, that doesn't tell the full story. That's really rough, but negative 7 defensive runs saved, negative 7 outs above average in left field when he only spent 150 innings there. In right field, it was 770 innings, a negative 9 defensive runs saved, negative 7 outs above average. It's still not good, but it sounds a lot better than the total numbers or when you look at the left field numbers, right? So it is interesting with him. And him originally being a third baseman brings up a lot of questions because Nolan Arenado had one of the worst seasons of his career, which, doesn't mean it was a terrible year because, he's Nolan Arenado. He's been extremely consistent. But it does start bringing on the question, especially because Arenado's defense, especially on the defensive metrics, dropped last year. It dropped. And there's no hiding from it. Arenado's not young. He's not getting any younger. He's going to be turning 33, which isn't super, it's not super old, but wear and tear falls on guys differently, right? So he maybe could be getting the wear and tear a little bit earlier because he's played already 8, 9, 10 years. So maybe he's feeling the wear and tear a little bit. And Jordan Walker's young, but outside of the defense, he still had a very solid offensive year. 117 games, hit 16 homers with a 116 weighted runs created plus. He did steal 7 bases. So not a ton of base stealing. Overall, 22% K rate, solid. It's nothing crazy. It's not super low, but it's solid. 8% walk rate, maybe we'd like that a little bit higher, but for a rookie year, I think it's solid, and I think he has a lot to grow on. So that's why I think Jordan Walker could have a very interesting sophomore season. Moving on to their offseason moves, obviously Sonny Gray, as I said, they signed him 3 years, $75 million. They'll sign Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn to 1-year deals, Keenan Middleton to a 1-year deal, Matt Carpenter, a little reunion there. They traded for Andrew Kitteridge from the Rays. Who or which one of those moves do you think is kind of the most important or most impactful, or what one of the moves do you think maybe flew under the radar?
They went to one of those free agent tracker websites, take your pick, and they sorted oldest to youngest, and they went, okay, those are our guys. Picking up Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, Matt Carpenter, I think, is in his 50s now. What are you going to expect from these guys? I will say Kyle Gibson I'm going to rag on him a little bit because he's old, but, he was a legitimate veteran presence for the Orioles last year. He was their opening day starter. He took the ball every fifth day, set a good example for other guys. I think St. Louis went, we want you to do that same exact thing here. He was fine with that role. I mean, he should be. That's the point he is in his career. So I'm going to shout out Kyle Gibson. He was on a team that won 101 games last year. I don't expect St. Louis to do the same thing, but crazier things have happened with lesser players. And Gibson, I'm not going to be upset when it's Gibson Day.
Well, they need to replace Adam Wainwright, and Gibson and Lance Lynn combined are still younger than Adam Wainwright. So, not actually, but no, Wainwright felt. But I think last year I was looking at Wainwright, and I'm like, even though I know he's not 60, it's it felt like he'd been in the league forever, and the fact that he didn't retire when Yachty and Albert Pujols did, it's like, what are we doing here? It's like you should have just gone out with the two of them, and all three of you leave at the same time. It kind of just felt like last year wasn't needed. For me, though, I'm gonna go a little bit off the radar, honestly, and I'm gonna go with Ryan Fernandez, Rule 5 draft acquisition from the Red Sox. This is a guy who I loved a lot in the Red Sox farm system. He was a guy in Double-A, lit up Double-A, 14 appearances in Double-A, 20 and a third innings, a 1.77 ERA, 26 strikeouts to 8 walks, looked really, really good. And then the Worcester curse hit him last year. A lot of the Red Sox pitchers, not even all, a lot of them, all of them struggled in Triple-A last year. Part of it's the park, very, very hitter-friendly park. Part of it was Jorge Alfaro and Ronaldo Hernandez were catching. That doesn't help at all. So the AAA numbers, 30 and 2/3 innings, 26 appearances, 6.16 ERA. You look at that and you go, ooh, that's rough, right? But overall, you look at his numbers as a whole, 32% K rate in AA, even still 25% K rate, even with the struggles in AAA. And you go back to 2022, and High A, he had a 35% K rate and 31% in AA when he finished up the year. So, overall, he's a guy who has really good stuff. It's just, can he figure it out? And the Cardinals have done very well with relief pitchers. So, I think it's a very interesting name to keep an eye on. He's not going to start the year off with a big role, but I could see him maybe solidifying himself in the middle of that bullpen if he can kind of figure it out, if he can figure it out, because he does have the stuff, right? He has a very, very nice fastball. He's got a slider, kind of a little bit of a cutter and a little bit of a curveball and changeup. Doesn't really use the changeup anymore. He doesn't really use the curveball either at all. But he has his fastball, he has his slider, and he has his cutter. So it's kind of a 3-pitch mix. A little bit more fastball cutter with the slider as a third. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays. But he's a guy who I loved in the Red Sox minor league system as a reliever, and I was sad to see him go, but he'll get the chance to play in the big leagues for St. Louis, so I'm happy for him in that sense. Now for expectations in 2024. I do want to start this because my expectations I have for them are to return to playoff contention with veterans being at their best, such as Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, because both of them did not replicate the 2022s, which was going to be extremely hard to do, but they didn't replicate it. I want to ask, do you agree with that, or do you have a different outlook for the team in 2020, heading into 2024?
No, I don't agree with that. I don't want to be a pessimist on a team that needs optimism right now, but I really, you watch Cardinals games and Marmol just looks lost, and it doesn't seem like the guys really like him, and he just really seems like the wrong guy. And as much as we want to downplay the role of the manager, you take a look at, we'll say 80% of the managers that made the playoffs this year. These are smart guys, talented guys. They were maybe good ball players in their own right, and you wouldn't mind having him as your manager. I don't think anybody's dying for him, and I don't really know why St. Louis is either. It just really seems like an odd fit. I could totally be proven wrong. I'm pretty sure I'll be proven right though, and so I think that they'll be better because, like I said, this is pretty much rock bottom. But I think that they have a ceiling, and I think they're going to need a little mid-year. We'll say Phillies from a couple years ago. They got to fire Girardi to open the way up for some serious baseball again, and I think we might see the same thing in St. Louis.
It is also a very interesting division. And the Brewers won the division last year. You also have the Cubs. The Reds have a ton of young talent, so it's interesting. I think it's going to be a more competitive division than people expect. I don't think there's going to be a team that runs away with it either. So I think this could potentially be a 4-way race, maybe. You never know, right? But I definitely could see a 3-team race in this division. So I think it'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you would be a little pessimistic, I think I would agree with that in some sense. But I think the Cardinals are going to look at the season and go, we need to return to playoff contention. I think that's their internal expectation. I think if they don't return to playoff contention and aren't like at least in the playoffs or real close, I think the season will be looked at as a failure by the Cardinals. But I think that's a good place to wrap it up. So make sure, Cardinals fans, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to check out all our other team profiles that we've done up to this point and the ones we will be doing in the future. Or if you're watching this in the future, check out all the ones that we've done even past this one. So I think it's fair to say, Cardinals, we'll see what happens. So for Pat, my name is Derek. Thanks for tuning in to Bleacher Brawls, and we will see you next time.